everyone, I'm Kevin, otherwise known as Forum BX257, here to bring you another 1980s G.I. Joe review. And this week, on my 1988 Iron Grenadiers theme month, I'll be taking a look at Destro's anti-gravity pod, better known as the 1988 AGP, and its pilot, the Nullifier. Now, the AGP makes its first appearance in the old Marvel comic run of G.I. Joe in issue 74, but doesn't make any cartoon appearances. The pilot, Nullifier, makes his first appearance in issue number 77, and likewise makes no cartoon appearances.
The AGP is a very unusual looking aircraft. I mean, it has all the parts for a traditional aircraft, like an aerodynamic canopy and jet engines as well as wings, but the arrangement is, how shall we say, unique. A lot of collectors actually compare this vehicle to the 1984 Skyhawk. This G.I. Joe vehicle also has a bit of scrutiny as to the arrangements of parts, but this also was a VTOL with pivoting engines which simulated the vertical takeoff feature. And that's what the AGP has as well. You can pivot the engines upwards like that. And they're keyed together, so you can't move one individually of the other. However, you can do that with these front cannons. And they just move up and down like that. They don't move side to side, unfortunately. Another feature of the aircraft is its rear rudder, which admittedly is a little bit tiny for the size of the craft, but one can imagine the airflow. And the design of this actually reminds me of the sail on a junk, a large Chinese fishing vessel, which had ribbed sails like this. As a matter of fact, I've often said that the entire Iron Grenadiers line has a very sci-fi Art Deco look, and one of the components of Art Deco is Oriental design mixed in. And, of course, there's your Oriental influence right there. Another item is we have 4 of these rockets mounted on these hard points on the rear, I'm going to say tail fins, if these are in fact tail fins. The rockets themselves are, well, actually kind of plain. Obviously, they do the job of looking like rockets, though. And last but not least, we have the very large opening canopy. The whole thing actually kind of swings open like this. One thing about the seating arrangement of the pilot is that it's almost upright. The figure is not really sitting on the seat, and it sort of dips down quite a bit in there. As a matter of fact, you can take a look at some of that detail. And I've often found myself having to sort of brace the pilot's hands on the joysticks. Without that, if you just go like this, the figure kind of dips down right into the front portion here, and you can see the back end of the seat just sort of poking out. It doesn't look quite right. So the figure actually has to be holding on to these handles in order to sit properly upwards. I don't normally put figures' hands on joysticks because they're pretty fragile generally, but this is the only really way to have the figure sit properly on here. And now it's time for, does a modern figure fit in it? As usual, I'll be using my 2009 Rise of Cobra Footloose figure as my example of a modern figure. And as I said, the figure kind of dips down into there, so I'm kind of assuming that there is going to be quite a lot of space whether or not he's holding on to those joysticks. And indeed, a modern figure actually fits better than the vintage figure that this was made for. Pretty much my only problem with the AGP is its lack of landing gear. Now, as you can see, the bottom of the craft is, well, quite plain. It's not very well detailed, but you'd expect that from an aircraft. It should be smooth. But really, on the ground, this thing is resting on the bottom tips of these tail fins and on the cannons, which I just don't like that. It would have been really nice for them to take advantage of the anti-gravity part of the title and maybe put some nubbins like here or one here, just so it just sort of raises up a little bit. I mean, obviously, it doesn't really need wheels because it's a vertical takeoff vehicle, but just resting just the way it does, it doesn't really look like it's very well finished. But the AGP is actually a really sturdy toy. There's pretty much nothing on here which I can tell you that breaks easily. If you thought the AGP was kind of strange, its Nullifier pilot has to be one of the strangest sculpts in all the 1980s G.I. Joe line. In the 1990s, we had monsters and zombies and even legitimate aliens. But here we have a guy who kind of looks like an alien already. Just taking a look at his only accessory, which is this large vented visor, which can just flip up like this. And this is what's often lost on this figure. Flipping it up actually kind of reveals just how long the sculpt of his chin is. Well, I say that's his chin, but that's not really just part of his helmet. But it just goes to show the very strange detail on this figure. I mean, just look at what these sculptings on his chest look like. They're almost like sci-fi Chinese. And the whole fact that his costume is generally very sand color gives him a sort of a almost sci-fi Egyptian look. And of course, Oriental and Egyptian equals sci-fi Art Deco, which is what the whole line is actually going for. But this is actually a very strange figure in that it wasn't originally meant to be part of the Iron Grenadiers line. It was actually designed for another line. The general idea of the Iron Grenadiers color scheme is black and red and gold, of which he has pretty much nothing of that. This sort of fuchsia color is kind of unusual with the other figures. However, he does match the color scheme in a sort of way. The tank driver, the ferret, has tan pants, going with most of the tan, and the Iron Grenadier General, Voltar, has that fuchsia color. So that's probably where this comes from. Now, as I mentioned before, he was originally planned to be part of another series. And as you can see with Dave Dorman's sketch, you can see the AGP in the background, which is not the vehicle he would have originally come with. So this color scheme is probably not the original color scheme envisioned for the figure. So if you just take a look at the black and white, and just sort of imagine any other different kind of colors. He was originally meant to be part of, that's right, Cobra-La. He was supposed to be a motorcycle driver. We never got the motorcycle in any shape, way, or form. One question on the minds of a lot of collectors is, why use the beige at all? Why not traditional colors, like the Iron Grenadier or Destro or even the top half of the ferret figure? And here we have a Cobra vehicle released in the same year. Check it out. This is a figure, obviously a Cobra, because he does have a Cobra symbol molded onto him, and yet he has perfect Iron Grenadier colors. Perhaps they just didn't want these two to clash. Well, that's all the time I have right now. Please check out my Facebook page for more information and behind the scenes photos for these reviews. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for next time to see another 1980s G.I. Joe toy review. See you then.